In the dim glow of a London fog, a velvet-gloved hand slips a dagger into the heart of trust, unleashing shadows that whisper of deadly betrayal. Welcome to the Velvet Dagger Shadows of Betrayal, a Hercule Poirot mystery where every smile hides a secret. Grab a cup of tea, take a seat, and let the suspense unfold. If you're enjoying the twists, subscribe to our channel. Your support means a lot to us. Chapter 1. The Enigmatic Invitation. Hercule Poirot adjusted his immaculate moustache in the mirror of his cosy apartment on Whitehaven Mansions, the scent of tisane wafting through the air as he pondered the peculiar letter that had arrived that morning. It was no ordinary post. The envelope bore the crest of an ancient family, the Ashworths, sealed with wax that gleamed like fresh blood under the lamplight. "Mon ami," Poirot murmured to himself, his little grey cells already buzzing with curiosity. What intrigue awaits in the countryside? The invitation summoned him to Ashworth Manor, a sprawling estate in the misty hills of Devon, for what was described as a gathering of minds hosted by the reclusive Lord Reginald Ashworth. But Poirot, with his keen eye for the unusual, noted the hurried script and the faint tremor in the ink, signs of desperation, perhaps fear. As the train chugged through the English landscape, Poirot reviewed the details he knew of the Ashworth family. Lord Reginald, a widower in his 60s, had amassed a fortune in antiquities, trading in relics from Egypt and the Orient. His daughter, Lady Evelyn, was a vision of modern elegance, recently returned from Paris with whispers of scandal trailing her like perfume. Then there was the son, Victor, a brooding artist whose paintings captured the macabre, and the enigmatic guest list. Dr. Helena Voss, a renowned Egyptologist, Marcus Hale, a rival collector with a grudge, and Sophia Lang, a journalist known for unearthing buried secrets. Poirot smiled faintly. Such a mix was a recipe for drama, and where drama brewed, mystery often followed. Upon arrival at the manor, the butler, Mr. Graves, a man with eyes as cold as his name, ushered Poirot into the grand hall, where tapestries of pharaohs and gods loomed over polished marble floors. The air hummed with tension, like a violin string pulled too tight. Lord Reginald greeted him with a firm handshake, but Poirot detected the pallor beneath his host's forced joviality. "Monsieur Poirot, your reputation precedes you," Lord Reginald said, his voice echoing slightly in the vast space. "We have a collection here that might interest even you. A velvet dagger from the tomb of an ancient queen, said to carry a curse of betrayal." Poirot's eyes sparkled. Curses were nonsense to him, but human motives, those were the true weapons. That evening, as the guests assembled in the drawing room, firelight dancing on crystal glasses filled with sherry, Poirot observed the undercurrents. Lady Evelyn flirted lightly with Marcus Hale, her laughter a touch too bright, while Victor sketched in the corner, his gaze darting suspiciously toward Dr. Voss, who fingered a necklace of lapis lazuli with scholarly intensity. Sophia Lang, notebook in hand, probed gently about the family's recent acquisitions, eliciting tight smiles all around. Dinner was a lavish affair: roast pheasant, truffled potatoes, and wines from the cellar. But Poirot noted how Lord Reginald barely touched his food, his eyes fixed on the velvet-draped display case in the adjoining library, where the infamous dagger rested under glass. As the night deepened, a storm rattled the windows, thunder mimicking the unease in the room. Poirot retired to his chamber, but sleep evaded him. Instead, he paced, piecing together fragments. A overheard whisper between Evelyn and Hale about debts unpaid, Victor's stained fingers suggesting more than paint, and Graves' lingering presence like a shadow. What was the real reason for this invitation? Was it merely to showcase treasures, or to unravel a web of deceit before it ensnared them all? In the wee hours, a scream pierced the silence, jolting Poirot from his reverie. Rushing downstairs, he found the guests converging on the library. There, Sprawled before the shattered display case lay Lord Reginald, a pool of blood spreading across the Persian rug. The velvet dagger protruded from his chest, its blade glinting mockingly in the moonlight. No one had seen the killer, but footprints muddied the floor, leading toward the garden. Poirot knelt, examining the scene with his magnifying glass. "Mes amis," he declared calmly amid the gasps, "this is no curse. It is murder most calculated. The shadows of betrayal have struck." The police arrived by dawn, Inspector Japp among them, grumbling about country house crimes, but Poirot waved him off politely. He would use his methods, questioning each guest subtly over breakfast. Lady Evelyn wept delicately, claiming she'd been asleep. Victor muttered about nightmares. Dr. Voss spoke of ancient rituals where daggers symbolized broken oaths. Hale denied any rivalry turned deadly. Sophia admitted to sneaking about for a story, and Graves swore the manor was locked tight. Yet Poirot's grey cells whirred. Alibis were flimsy, motives plentiful, a missing glove, a smudged note in Reginald's pocket reading, "The truth cuts deep," and the faint scent of jasmine perfume on the dagger's hilt pointed to layers yet uncovered as the chapter of arrival turned to one of suspicion. Poirot gathered them in the drawing room. "We must reconstruct the evening," he said, his voice steady and commanding. He demonstrated with a simple reenactment using a candlestick as proxy, showing how the killer must have entered through a hidden panel, revealed by a draught he'd felt earlier. Gasps ensued, but no confessions. Instead, eyes shifted, alliances formed in whispers. Practical tip for any budding detective: always note the anomalies, like a clock stopped at midnight or a misplaced ashtray. They are the breadcrumbs of truth. Wrapping up this opening act of mystery, we've met our cast and witnessed the fatal blow, setting the stage for revelations ahead. The velvet dagger's shadow lengthens, promising more twists in the Devon mist. Stay tuned for Chapter 2, where suspicions deepen and alibis crumble. Chapter 2: Whispers in the Mist. The morning after Lord Reginald's murder dawned grey and heavy, the Devon mist curling around Ashworth Manor like a shroud. Hercule Poirot stood at the library window, his sharp eyes scanning the garden where the killer's muddy footprints had vanished into the storm-soaked earth. The scent of jasmine lingered in his memory, a clue as delicate as it was elusive. Inside, the manor buzzed with unease, the guests' polite facades cracking under the weight of suspicion. Poirot sipped his coffee, served by a tight-lipped Mr. Graves, and let his little grey cells sift through the chaos of the previous night. The velvet dagger, now in police custody, was no mere relic. It was a symbol, a silent accusation pointing to someone in this very house. Breakfast was a strained affair in the dining hall, where chandeliers cast long shadows over the mahogany table. Lady Evelyn, her eyes red-rimmed but composed, pushed a piece of toast around her plate, avoiding Marcus Hale's furtive glances. Victor Ashworth, slouched in his chair, sketched furiously in a leather-bound notebook, his pencil scratching like an insect in the silence. Dr. Helena Voss, her scholarly poise unshaken, murmured about the dagger's historical significance, how it was said to have belonged to a betrayed queen who cursed her enemies. Sophia Lang, ever the journalist, scribbled notes, her pen darting as if chasing secrets. Poirot observed them all, noting how no one mentioned the note found in Lord Reginald's pocket. The truth cuts deep. Who had written it, and what truth had cost the Lord his life? Inspector Japp, bustling in with his notepad, announced that the manor was sealed. No one could leave until the investigation progressed. "This is a right mess, Poirot," he grumbled, wiping his brow. "Footprints lead nowhere, and that blasted dagger's got no fingerprints but the victim's." Poirot nodded, his mind elsewhere. He approached Lady Evelyn first, her delicate frame wrapped in a silk shawl. "Mademoiselle, you were close to your father," he began gently. "Did he speak of enemies?" Evelyn's lips trembled, but she shook her head. "He was secretive about his business, Monsieur Poirot. But lately he seemed haunted." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "He said someone was watching him." Next, Poirot cornered Victor in the conservatory, where glass walls trapped the humidity like a confession. The young artist's fingers were still smudged, not with paint, Poirot noted, but with something darker. Ink, perhaps, or ash. Your father's death, Monsieur Victor, it affects your inheritance, no? Poirot asked, his tone neutral. Victor's eyes flashed. I didn't need his money. I paint what I see. Death, betrayal. He never understood. He gestured to a canvas in the corner, a grotesque depiction of a figure pierced by a blade, eerily similar to the crime scene. Poirot's moustache twitched. Art often mirrored truth. Dr. Voss was in the library, poring over a tome about Egyptian curses, when Poirot approached. The dagger, madame. You admired it greatly, he said, watching her closely. She smiled faintly, her fingers tracing the lapis lazuli necklace. It's a marvel, Monsieur Poirot. In ancient times, such blades were used in rituals of vengeance. Lord Reginald knew its value and its dangers. Her words were measured, but Poirot caught a flicker of unease when he mentioned the scent of jasmine. Did it come from her perfume, or was it a deliberate misdirection? Marcus Hale, the rival collector, was less composed, pacing the billiard room with a cigar in hand. Reginald outbid me on that dagger last year, he admitted gruffly when Poirot pressed him. Cost me a fortune in reputation. But murder? That's not my style. Yet his clenched fists and the faint mud on his boots suggested otherwise. Poirot filed this away, his mind turning to Sophia Lang, who he found in the study, rifling through papers. Mademoiselle, your curiosity is admirable, he said, startling her. She flushed, clutching her notebook. I was researching Lord Reginald's latest acquisition, a tablet said to reveal a traitor's name. He was obsessed with it. Poirot's eyes narrowed. Another clue, another thread in the web. The butler, Mr. Graves, was the hardest to read, his face a mask as he polished silver in the pantry. The manor was secure, monsieur, he insisted when Poirot questioned him. No one entered or left after midnight. But Poirot noticed a key missing from the ring at Graves' belt. The key to the garden door, perhaps? As he pondered, a maid burst in, pale and trembling. Sir, there's something in the attic, letters hidden in a trunk. Poirot followed her upstairs, where a dusty box revealed a bundle of correspondence. One letter sealed with the same wax as the invitation he'd received. It read, Reginald, you cannot hide your sins forever. The dagger will find you. The discovery sent ripples through the manor, each guest reacting differently. Evelyn's gasp, Victor's scowl, Voss's raised eyebrow, Hale's curse, Sophia's eager questions, and Graves's stony silence. Poirot gathered them in the drawing room once more, holding the letter aloft. Mes amis, someone here knew of Lord Reginald's fears and used them to strike. This letter is but one piece of the puzzle. He paused, letting the tension build. We must look closer, at motives, at lies, at the shadows that dance between you. As the mist thickened outside, Poirot knew the truth was near, yet maddeningly out of reach. The velvet dagger's curse was no myth. It was human greed, fear, or vengeance cloaked in velvet. The day closed with questions unanswered, but Poirot's resolve was unshaken. The next chapter would peel back another layer, revealing who among them wielded betrayal as deftly as the blade itself. Chapter 3. The Hidden Panel. The afternoon sun struggled through the heavy clouds, casting a pallid glow over Ashworth Manor as Hercule Poirot paced the library, his polished shoes clicking softly on the marble floor. The letter found in the attic, with its chilling warning, Reginald, you cannot hide your sins forever. The dagger will find you, lay on the table, its wax seal glinting like an accusation. Poirot's little grey cells hummed with possibilities. Each guest a suspect, each clue a thread in the tapestry of murder. The scent of jasmine, the muddy footprints, the missing key, all pointed to a truth buried within the manor's walls, perhaps literally. The hidden panel he'd discovered in the library, concealed behind a tapestry of Anubis, beckoned like a whisper from the past. Poirot gathered the guests in the grand hall, their faces a mix of dread and curiosity. Lady Evelyn clutched a handkerchief, her eyes darting to the shadowed corners. Victor slouched against a pillar, his sketchbook now closed, as if guarding its secrets. Dr. Helena Voss stood poised, her fingers brushing her lapis lazuli necklace, while Marcus Hale lit another cigar, the smoke curling like the mist outside. Sophia Lang hovered near the fireplace, her journalist's instinct palpable, and Mr. Graves, the butler, stood rigid, his expression unreadable. "Mes amis," Poirot began, his voice steady. The killer moved with purpose, using a passage known only to a few. "Let us explore this manor's secrets together." He led them to the library, pulling back the tapestry to reveal the panel. A wooden slab that slid open with a faint creak, exposing a narrow corridor. Gasps echoed as dust motes danced in the dim light. "This passage," Poirot explained, "leads to the garden where the footprints vanished. Someone used it to strike and flee." Inspector Japp, trailing behind, muttered about blasted old houses and their tricks, but Poirot's focus was on the guests' reactions. Evelyn paled, Victor's jaw tightened, and Graves' hand twitched toward his empty keyring. Sophia scribbled furiously, while Voss and Hale exchanged a glance Poirot couldn't quite decipher. Venturing into the passage, Poirot's torch illuminated cobwebs and worn stone, the air thick with damp earth. At the far end, a door opened to the garden, its lock scratched as if forced. Nearby, a scrap of velvet, torn from a glove perhaps, lay caught on a thorn. Poirot pocketed it, his mind racing. Back in the library, he questioned Evelyn about the passage. I knew of it as a child," she admitted, her voice trembling. "We played there, Victor and I, but father forbade us after mother's death." Her eyes flickered to her brother, who scowled. "It's just a dusty relic," Victor snapped. "I haven't been there in years." Poirot turned to Dr. Voss, whose expertise in antiquities might extend to the manor's architecture. "Such passages were common in estates dealing in smuggled goods," she said coolly. "Lord Reginald's collection included questionable acquisitions." Her words hung heavy, and Hale snorted. Reginald was no saint, but smuggling? That's a stretch. Yet Poirot noted Hale's muddy boots again, cleaner now but still telling. Sophia interjected. "I found records in the study. Shipments from Cairo, unmarked crates. Could they be linked?" Poirot nodded, encouraging her to keep digging, though he suspected she knew more than she let on. Mr. Graves, when pressed, claimed ignorance of the passage's recent use. "My duties keep me in the main house, monsieur," he said, but Poirot caught a faint tremor in his voice. The butler's keyring, missing the garden door key, was a glaring clue. Poirot then examined Victor's sketchbook, which the artist reluctantly handed over. Among morbid drawings was a sketch of the hidden panel, dated a week prior. "Mere inspiration," Victor muttered, but his eyes betrayed unease. Poirot's suspicions deepened. Had Victor planned the murder, or was he documenting someone else's scheme? As evening fell, Poirot reconvened the group in the dining hall, where tension simmered like the soup served cold. He revealed the velvet scrap, watching for reactions. Evelyn touched her gloves instinctively. Voss adjusted her necklace, and Hale stubbed out his cigar with force. "The dagger was no random choice," Poirot said, his gaze sweeping the room. "It was a message tied to Lord Reginald's past, a betrayal he feared would resurface." He produced another find from the attic, a photograph of a younger Reginald with a woman. Not his late wife, her face obscured, but her perfume bottle labelled jasmine essence. The room stilled, each guest avoiding his eyes. Sophia broke the silence, her voice sharp. "I heard Lord Reginald arguing with someone 2 nights ago about a debt and a curse. It was near the library." Poirot's moustache twitched. The pieces were aligning, but the puzzle was far from complete. He dismissed the group. urging them to remain vigilant, then conferred with Japp. The passage, the velvet, the jasmine, they point to someone intimate with the manor, Poirot mused. Japp groaned. This lot's got more secrets than a spy ring. As night cloaked the manor, Poirot sat by the fire, piecing together motives. Evelyn's grief seemed genuine, but her knowledge of the passage was troubling. Victor's sketches suggested foresight, perhaps obsession. Voss's calm hinted at calculation. Hale's rivalry at desperation. Sophia's probing at hidden agendas. And Graves' stoicism at something darker. The photograph and its jasmine scent gnawed at him. Whose face was hidden? And why had Reginald kept it? The chapter closed with a distant creak from the passage, unheard by all but Poirot. He rose, his hand on his cane, ready to chase the shadows further. The velvet dagger's tale was unravelling, each clue a step closer to the betrayer's heart. The next act would probe deeper into lies whispered in the dark and sins that refused to stay buried. Chapter 4. The Scent of Secrets. The night wrapped Ashworth Manor in a suffocating embrace, its corridors whispering with the echoes of the storm that had passed. Hercule Poirot sat in his guest room, the fire casting flickering shadows on the walls as he turned the jasmine-scented photograph over in his hands. The woman's face, obscured by a tear in the image, was a mystery as compelling as the velvet dagger itself. The scent of jasmine, faint but unmistakable, linked the photograph to the murder scene, tugging at Poirot's little grey cells. Someone in this house knew her identity, and that knowledge had driven Lord Reginald to his grave. The creak from the hidden passage still lingered in Poirot's mind, a reminder that the killer was close, perhaps watching. Morning brought a tense hush to the manor, the guests moving like chess pieces on a board only Poirot could see. He began his inquiries in the conservatory, where Lady Evelyn tended to a wilting orchid, her hands trembling slightly. "Mademoiselle," Poirot said softly, holding up the photograph. "This woman, did your father ever speak of her?" Evelyn's eyes widened, then darted away. I don't know her," she stammered. "Father kept many secrets after Mother died." Her fingers brushed a velvet glove on the table, its mate missing. And Poirot noted the gesture, his suspicions sharpening. Was Evelyn hiding a connection, or was her grief masking fear? In the drawing room, Victor Ashworth was less forthcoming, his dark eyes glaring as Poirot questioned him about the photograph. "I don't waste time on father's old flames," he snapped, clutching his sketchbook. But Poirot pressed, mentioning the jasmine scent. Victor froze, then muttered, "He burned letters sometimes in the fireplace. Smelled like that perfume." The admission was small but significant. Had Reginald destroyed evidence of a past betrayal? Poirot's gaze lingered on Victor's stained fingers, wondering if they'd held more than a pencil. Dr. Helena Voss was in the library, surrounded by books on ancient curses, when Poirot approached. He showed her the photograph, watching her closely. "Jasmine was prized in Egypt," she said, her voice calm but her fingers tightening on her necklace. A scent of royalty, but also of deceit in their myths. She claimed ignorance of the woman, yet Poirot sensed a flicker of recognition in her eyes. Was Voss's expertise merely academic, or did she know more about the dagger's curse and its wielder? Marcus Hale, found in the billiard room, was brusque as ever. "Reginald had enemies, not lovers," he growled when shown the photograph. "He cheated me on deals, probably others too." But Poirot noticed Hale's cigar case, engraved with a jasmine flower, a detail too precise to be coincidence. "Monsieur, your rivalry with Lord Reginald, did it extend to personal matters?" Poirot asked. Hale laughed bitterly. "I don't kill over sentiment." Yet his unease betrayed a deeper story, one Poirot intended to unravel. Sophia Lang was in the study, sifting through Lord Reginald's papers, when Poirot confronted her. "Mademoiselle, you mentioned an argument about a debt," he said, producing the photograph. Sophia hesitated, then admitted, "I found a ledger entry. Payments to a JL in Cairo years ago." It stopped abruptly, around the time he acquired the dagger. Her eyes met Poirot's, sharp with curiosity. Could JL be the woman? Poirot nodded, encouraging her to share more, but her guarded tone suggested she was holding back. Mr. Graves, polishing silver in the pantry, was as inscrutable as ever. "I served Lord Reginald for 20 years, he said when asked about the photograph. "I don't pry into personal matters." But Poirot noticed a faint jasmine scent on the butler's cuff, quickly masked as Graves adjusted his sleeve. Was it residue from the dagger or a careless slip? Poirot's questions about the missing garden key met with a flat denial, but the butler's composure cracked for a moment, revealing a flash of fear. As noon approached, Poirot gathered the guests in the grand hall, the photograph now a centerpiece on the table. "This woman," he declared, "is the key to Lord Reginald's death. Her scent clings to the crime, her shadow to his fears." He revealed another clue, a locket found in the passage inscribed with JL and containing a faded jasmine petal. Gasps rippled through the room. Evelyn clutched her shawl. Victor's pencil snapped. Voss's necklace gleamed. Hale's cigar trembled. Sophia's pen stilled, and Graves looked away. "Someone here knows JL," Poirot said, his voice cutting through the tension. "And that knowledge is a motive for murder." The afternoon unfolded with a new discovery. A burned letter fragment in the fireplace, its legible words reading, "JL will not forgive." Poirot found it while examining the drawing room where Evelyn had lingered earlier. Confronting her privately, he pressed, "Mademoiselle, is JL tied to your family's pain?" Tears welled in her eyes. "Father said JL ruined him once, long ago. He never explained." Her confession, though vague, added weight to the theory of a past betrayal resurfacing with deadly consequences. As dusk settled, Poirot stood by the garden door, the locket in his pocket and the jasmine scent in his mind. The manor's secrets were peeling away, but the truth remained elusive. Was JL a lover, a rival, or a ghost from Reginald's dealings in antiquities? Each guest held a piece of the puzzle, their lies and half-truths weaving a web tighter than the mist outside. The velvet dagger's shadow grew longer, its blade pointing to a heart still hidden. The next chapter would delve deeper into the past that refused to stay silent and the betrayer who walked among them. Chapter 5. The Ghost of JL. The twilight cast long shadows across Ashworth Manor, the air thick with the weight of secrets as Hercule Poirot stood in the garden, the locket inscribed with JL cold in his palm. The jasmine petal inside, brittle and faded, seemed to whisper of a past that clung to the present like damp mist. The burned letter fragment, JL will not forgive, burned brighter in Poirot's mind, a beacon pointing to a grudge that had festered into murder. The velvet dagger, now locked in Inspector Japp's evidence case, was more than a weapon. It was a relic of vengeance, its curse not supernatural but all too human. Poirot's little grey cells churned, piecing together the threads of JL's identity and the motives swirling around the manor's inhabitants. In the drawing room, where the fire crackled with uneasy warmth, Poirot began his day's inquiries with Lady Evelyn, whose delicate composure was fraying. "Mademoiselle," he said, holding up the locket, "this JL, your father spoke of ruin. Was she a lover, a partner in his dealings?" Evelyn's hands twisted her handkerchief, her voice barely a whisper. "I heard him mention JL once, years ago, when he thought I wasn't listening. He said she betrayed him in Cairo, cost him everything." Her eyes met Poirot's, wide with fear. "I thought she was dead." The revelation hung heavy, but Poirot pressed gently, noting her trembling fingers. Was Evelyn protecting a family secret, or was she a pawn in a larger game? Victor Ashworth was in his studio, surrounded by canvases of grim beauty, when Poirot approached. The sketch of the hidden panel still nagged at him, Monsieur Victor, your father's fear of JL. Did it inspire your art? Poirot asked, gesturing to a painting of a veiled woman holding a dagger. Victor's laugh was bitter. Father's ghosts weren't mine. But yes, he ranted about JL. Said she'd come for him one day. He hesitated, then added, I found a letter in his desk once, addressed to her. He never sent it. Poirot's moustache twitched. An unsent letter could hold the key to JL's role in the murder. Dr. Helena Voss, found in the library, was studying a map of ancient trade routes when Poirot showed her the locket. JL could be anyone, she said coolly, but her fingers paused on her lapis lazuli necklace, a gesture Poirot had come to recognize as a tell. In Cairo, Lord Reginald dealt with many merchants, smugglers, even spies. JL might have been one of them. Her knowledge of Reginald's past was too precise, Poirot thought, and her calm too practiced. Did Voss know JL personally, or was her expertise a shield for her own motives? Marcus Hale, nursing a brandy in the billiard room, scoffed at the locket. JL? Probably some swindler Reginald crossed, he said, his voice rough. He had a knack for making enemies. But Poirot noticed a faint jasmine scent on Hale's coat. Faint, but undeniable. Monsieur, your cigar case bore a jasmine flower, Poirot said, his tone deceptively mild. Hale's eyes narrowed. A gift from a dealer in Cairo, nothing more. Yet his defensiveness suggested a connection to JL, one he was eager to dismiss. Sophia Lang, ever the investigator, was in the study, poring over Lord Reginald's ledgers when Poirot approached. I found more on JL, she said eagerly, showing him a faded receipt for a jasmine-scented perfume, signed J. Langston. Could this be JL? She asked. Poirot's eyes gleamed. Langston was a name he hadn't heard, but Sophia's own surname, Lang, raised questions. Mademoiselle, your interest in JL, is it professional or personal? He asked. Sophia flushed. Just a journalist's instinct, she said. But her quick glance away told Poirot she was entangled in this mystery more than she admitted. Mr. Graves, polishing candelabras in the dining hall, was as stoic as ever when Poirot questioned him about JL. I never met anyone by that name, monsieur, he said, his voice flat, but Poirot noticed a small burn mark on Graves' cuff, as if he'd been near a fire. Perhaps the one where the letter fragment was burned. The missing key, Monsieur Graves, Poirot said. Could it have been used by JL? The butler's face remained impassive, but his hands stilled for a fraction of a second, a crack in his armour. Poirot called the guests to the grand hall, the locket and burned letter fragment on display. JL is no ghost, he declared, his voice commanding silence. She was real, and her shadow looms over this murder. Someone here knows her truth. He revealed a new clue, a Cairo newspaper clipping found in Reginald's desk, dated 10 years prior, describing a scandal involving a Jasmine Langston, an antiquities dealer accused of forging relics. The article mentioned Reginald as her partner, betrayed when she vanished with a fortune. The room tensed. Evelyn gasped. Victor's eyes darkened. Voss adjusted her necklace. Hale downed his brandy, Sophia dropped her pen, and Graves stood frozen. Jasmine Langston, Poirot said, watching each face, was no mere dealer. She was a wound in Lord Reginald's heart, a betrayal he feared would return. He paused, letting the weight settle, and return she did through this dagger, through this murder. Sophia spoke up, her voice shaky. I heard of Langston in my research. She disappeared after the scandal, presumed dead. But Poirot's gaze lingered on her. Was her knowledge coincidence, or was she closer to JL than she claimed? As night fell, Poirot stood by the fireplace, the clipping in hand. The jasmine scent, the locket, the letter, all pointed to a past that refused to stay buried. Was JL alive, hiding among them, or was her legacy wielded by another? Each guest's secrets intertwined, their motives as tangled as the manor's hidden passages. The velvet dagger's curse was not ancient magic but a living vendetta, and Poirot was determined to unmask its bearer. The next chapter would probe the heart of JL's betrayal, where love, greed and revenge collided in the shadows. Chapter 6. The Echoes of Cairo. The moon hung low over Ashworth Manor, its pale light filtering through the mist as Hercule Poirot stood in the study. The Cairo newspaper clipping about Jasmine Langston spread before him. The words, betrayal, forgery, disappearance, wove a tale of greed and broken trust that had followed Lord Reginald across continents and years, culminating in the velvet dagger's deadly strike. The locket with JL and its jasmine petal, the burned letter fragment, and the lingering scent at the crime scene all pointed to a vendetta rooted in that scandal a decade ago. Poirot's little grey cells buzzed, sensing the truth was near, hidden in the memories and lies of those within the manor's walls. He began the day's inquiries with Lady Evelyn, finding her in the conservatory, her hands buried in soil as she repotted a fern. "Mademoiselle," Poirot said, holding the clipping, "this Jasmine Langston, your father's partner in Cairo. Did he ever speak of her betrayal?" Evelyn's face paled, dirt smudging her cheek like a confession. "He mentioned her once, in anger," she whispered. "Said she stole his trust and his future. I was young. I didn't understand." Her eyes flicked to the locket Poirot held, and she added, "That locket, I saw one like it in Mother's Things, before she died." The revelation startled Poirot. Was JL tied to the late Lady Ashworth? Victor Ashworth was in the attic, surrounded by dusty crates of his father's antiquities, when Poirot approached. "Monsieur Victor, this Jasmine Langston, your father's letters suggest she haunted him," Poirot said, showing the clipping. Victor's jaw tightened, his hands gripping a carved scarab. He blamed her for everything. Lost deals, lost honor, said she'd cursed him. He hesitated, then pointed to a crate. "That came from Cairo after the scandal. Father wouldn't let anyone touch it." Poirot's eyes narrowed. The crate, sealed with the same wax as the invitation, demanded investigation. Dr. Helena Voss was in the library, her scholarly air unshaken as she studied a papyrus scroll. Poirot presented the clipping, watching her closely. "Jasmine Langston was a brilliant forger," Voss said, her voice measured. "Her fakes fooled even experts, until Reginald exposed her. It ruined them both." Her fingers brushed her lapis lazuli necklace, and Poirot pressed, "Madame, you were in Cairo then, no?" Voss nodded, unflinching. "As a student, yes. I heard of the scandal, but I never met her." Her calm was too perfect, Poirot thought, like a mask hiding deeper knowledge. Marcus Hale, polishing his boots in the billiard room, bristled at the mention of Jasmine Langston. She was a cheat like Reginald, he growled, the clipping sparking a scowl. "I lost a bid to them in Cairo. Fake relics, real money. She vanished. Left him to take the fall." Poirot noted Hale's jasmine-engraved cigar case again, its presence too pointed. "Monsieur, did you seek revenge for that loss?" Poirot asked. Hale laughed harshly. "I outbid him later. That was enough." But his eyes shifted, betraying a grudge that lingered. Sophia Lang, in the study, was transcribing notes when Poirot showed her the clipping. "Jasmine Langston," she murmured, her face paling. "I found her name in a journal. Reginald wrote she'd sworn to ruin him." Poirot's gaze sharpened. Her surname Lang echoed Langston too closely. "Mademoiselle, is there a connection to your family?" he asked. Sophia shook her head too quickly. "Just a coincidence. I'm here for the story." But her trembling pen suggested a personal stake, one Poirot intended to uncover. Mr. Graves, arranging flowers in the dining hall, was stoic when shown the clipping. "I know nothing of Cairo, monsieur," he said, his voice flat. But Poirot noticed a faint scar on Graves's hand, shaped like a crescent moon, a mark mentioned in the clipping as Langston's signature on her forgeries. "The missing key, Monsieur Graves," Poirot said. "Could it belong to that crate in the attic?" Graves' eyes flickered, but he replied, "I've never seen it." The lie was subtle, but Poirot's instincts flared. Poirot gathered the guests in the grand hall, the clipping and locket on display. "Jasmine Langston's betrayal is the heart of this murder," he declared, his voice cutting through the tension. Her shadow drove Lord Reginald to fear, to secrecy. He revealed a new find. The Cairo crate, pried open in the attic, contained a forged tablet inscribed with "Betrayal cuts deepest," echoing the note in Reginald's pocket. The guests reacted. Evelyn's gasp, Victor's clenched fists, Voss's raised eyebrow, Hale's curse, Sophia's wide eyes, and Graves's stillness. This tablet, Poirot said, was no antique. It was a message crafted to torment. Later, in the library, Poirot found a hidden diary in Reginald's desk, its final entry reading, "JL is here. I saw her in the garden watching." The word sent a chill through him. Was Jasmine Langston alive? Or was someone impersonating her ghost? Confronting Voss privately, he asked about the tablet's craftsmanship. "It's recent," she admitted, "but the style mimics Langston's work." Her knowledge was too precise, Poirot noted, as if she'd studied the forger's methods. As night deepened, Poirot stood by the garden door, the crate's wax seal in his pocket. The echoes of Cairo, of love betrayed, fortunes lost, and vows of vengeance were louder now. Each guest's connection to JL grew clearer, their secrets intertwining like the manor's passages. The velvet dagger's blade had struck once, but its true target remained hidden. The next chapter would unravel the diary's final clue, chasing the ghost of Jasmine Langston through the shadows of betrayal. Chapter 7. The diary's final clue. The mist clung to Ashworth Manor like a veil, muffling the world beyond as Hercule Poirot sat in the study. Lord Reginald's diary opened before him. The final entry, "JL is here. I saw her in the garden, watching," etched a chilling certainty in Poirot's mind. Jasmine Langston, or her shadow, had returned to exact revenge. The velvet dagger, the forged tablet, the jasmine-scented locket, all wove a tapestry of betrayal that began in Cairo and ended in murder. The diary's pages, filled with cryptic notes about debts and promises broken, hinted at a truth buried deep in the manor's secrets. Poirot's little grey cells danced, sensing the killer was close, their motives tangled in the past. He began his inquiries in the drawing-room, where Lady Evelyn sat by the fire, her face pale as she stitched a tapestry. "Mademoiselle," Poirot said, holding the diary, "your father believed Jasmine Langston was here. Did you see anyone in the garden?" Evelyn's needle paused, her eyes distant. "I saw a figure once at dusk, cloaked in black. I thought it was a dream." Her voice quavered, and Poirot noted her hands, still gloveless, one missing its velvet mate. Was Evelyn's vision real or a lie to deflect suspicion? Victor Ashworth was in his studio, splashing paint across a canvas of a woman veiled in shadow, her hand gripping a dagger. "Monsieur Victor," Poirot said, showing the diary's entry, "your father saw JL. Did your art capture her?" Victor's brush stilled, his eyes dark. "I paint what haunts me. Father said she'd come for us all, that her curse was real." He pointed to a sketch in the corner, dated the night of the murder, showing a figure by the garden door. "I saw her too," he admitted, "but only a glimpse." Poirot's gaze sharpened. Was Victor's art a confession or a distraction? Dr. Helena Voss, found in the library, was examining a book on Egyptian vengeance rituals when Poirot approached. "Madame, this diary suggests Jasmine Langston lived," he said, watching her closely. Voss's fingers grazed her lapis lazuli necklace. "Reginald was paranoid," she replied. "Langston vanished after Cairo, dead most likely. But her legend could inspire a killer." Her knowledge was precise, yet her calm felt rehearsed. Poirot pressed, "Did you see anyone in the garden?" Voss hesitated, then said, "A shadow perhaps, But it was the storm. Her evasion intrigued him. Was she shielding the truth? Marcus Hale, polishing his cigar case in the billiard room, scoffed at the diary. Reginald was losing his mind over ghosts, he said, but his hands shook slightly. JL was a swindler, long gone. Poirot noted the jasmine engraving on the case, its scent faint but present. Monsieur, did you see this ghost in the garden? He asked. Hale's eyes flickered. I saw nothing but rain. Yet his muddy boots, cleaned but not perfectly, suggested he'd been outside that night. Poirot filed this away, sensing Hale's grudge ran deeper than he admitted. Sophia Lang, in the study, was reading the diary when Poirot entered. Mademoiselle, your name echoes Langston's, he said, pointing to the entry. Did you know of her presence? Sophia's face flushed. I found letters in Cairo archives, mentioning JL watching Reginald. I thought it was metaphor. Her voice wavered, and Poirot wondered if her journalistic zeal hid a personal tie. Did you see her in the garden? He asked. Sophia shook her head. I was in my room, writing. But her notebook, open to a page about JL, suggested she knew more. Mr. Graves, arranging cutlery in the dining hall, was impassive when Poirot showed him the diary. I saw no one in the garden, monsieur, he said, his voice steady. But Poirot noticed the crescent moon scar on Graves's hand, matching Langston's mark from the Cairo clipping. The missing key, Monsieur Graves. Could it have admitted this ghost? Poirot asked. Graves's eyes met his, unyielding. The key was lost years ago. The lie was subtle, but Poirot's instincts flared. The butler was hiding something. Poirot gathered the guests in the grand hall, the diary open on the table. Mes amis, Lord Reginald saw Jasmine Langston, or someone posing as her, he declared, his voice commanding. This figure in the garden was no phantom but a harbinger of death. He revealed a new clue, a velvet ribbon found near the garden door, stained with jasmine oil. The guests reacted. Evelyn's gasp, Victor's scowl, Voss's tightened grip on her necklace, Hale's clenched fist, Sophia's wide eyes, and Graves's slight flinch. This ribbon, Poirot said, links the killer to JL's legacy. Later in the attic, Poirot found a hidden compartment in the Cairo crate, containing a photograph of a young woman with Reginald, her face clear. Jasmine Langston, her eyes fierce, a jasmine flower in her hair. A note tucked behind read, You'll pay for Cairo, R. The handwriting matched the burned letter fragment. Poirot confronted Hale privately, showing the photograph. Monsieur, you knew her, he said. Hale paled. We met once in Cairo. She was unforgettable. His admission was a crack in his armour. But was it guilt? As midnight loomed, Poirot stood by the garden door, the ribbon in his pocket. The diary's clue had brought JL to life, her presence a spectre haunting every suspect. Was she among them, disguised, or was her vengeance wielded by another? The velvet dagger's shadow stretched further, its blade poised to reveal the betrayer. The next chapter would chase the truth through the manor's darkest corners, where lies and love collided in deadly silence. Chapter 8. The Mask of Motives. The air in Ashworth Manor grew heavy with suspicion, the mist outside thickening, as if to mirror the secrets within. Hercule Poirot stood in the library, the photograph of Jasmine Langston and Lord Reginald in his hand, her fierce eyes staring back through time. The note tucked behind, You'll pay for Cairo, R, was a vow of vengeance, its handwriting a match for the burned fragment found earlier. The velvet ribbon, stained with jasmine oil, lay beside it, a tangible link to the murder. Poirot's little grey cells whirred, piecing together the puzzle. Jasmine Langston's betrayal in Cairo had seeded this crime, but who among the guests wore her mask? The velvet dagger's shadow loomed, its truth closer than ever. Poirot began his inquiries in the conservatory, where Lady Evelyn sat, her hands nervously pruning a rosebush. Mademoiselle, he said, showing the photograph and note, this vow of revenge, did your father fear Jasmine Langston's return? Evelyn's fingers faltered, a thorn pricking her skin. He was haunted by her, she admitted, her voice low. After Mother died, he said JL would never forgive him for what he did. Her eyes lingered on the ribbon, and Poirot noticed her bare hands, the missing velvet glove still unaccounted for. Was Evelyn's fear genuine, or a veil for her own motives? In the attic, Victor Ashworth was sorting through crates, his face taut as Poirot approached with the photograph. Monsieur Victor, this note threatens your father. Did you know of Jasmine's grudge? Victor's eyes darkened, his hand clutching a paintbrush. Father said she'd ruin us, like she did in Cairo. I thought it was his guilt talking. He gestured to a canvas nearby, depicting a woman with a dagger, her face half hidden. I painted her from his stories, he said. Poirot's gaze sharpened. The painting's details were too precise, as if Victor had seen more than stories. Dr. Helena Voss was in the drawing room, her lapis lazuli necklace glinting as she read an ancient text. Poirot showed her the note and photograph. Jasmine Langston was a master of deception, Voss said, her voice steady. Reginald betrayed her first, exposing her forgeries to save himself. Her fingers brushed the necklace, a habit Poirot now recognized as a tell. Madame, did you meet her in Cairo? He asked. Voss shook her head. I only knew her reputation, but her eyes flickered, suggesting a deeper connection to the scandal. Marcus Hale in the billiard room was cleaning his jasmine-engraved cigar case when Poirot presented the evidence. Langston was trouble, Hale growled, his voice rough. Reginald double-crossed her and she swore revenge. I stayed out of it. Yet Poirot noted Hale's tense grip, the faint jasmine scent clinging to him. Monsieur, were you in the garden that night near the ribbon? Poirot asked. Hale's scowl deepened. I told you I saw nothing. But his cleaned boots, still faintly muddy, told a different story. Sophia Lang was in the study, her notebook filled with notes on Jasmine Langston, when Poirot approached. Mademoiselle, this note and your surname, too close to be chance, he said, showing the photograph. Sophia's face paled. I researched her for a story, she insisted. My family's from London, not Cairo. But her voice shook, and Poirot pressed. Did you find this note in Reginald's papers? Sophia nodded reluctantly. It was hidden in a book. I didn't tell anyone. Her secrecy raised Poirot's suspicions. Was she chasing a scoop or hiding a lineage? Mr. Graves, polishing a mirror in the dining hall, was stoic as Poirot showed him the note. I know nothing of Miss Langston's plans, monsieur, he said, his crescent moon scar catching the light. Poirot's eyes narrowed. The ribbon, Monsieur Graves, with jasmine oil. Did you handle it? Graves' face remained impassive. I arrange flowers, nothing more. But Poirot noticed a faint smudge of oil on Graves's cuff, a detail too precise to ignore. The butler's calm was a fortress, but cracks were forming. Poirot gathered the guests in the grand hall, the photograph, note and ribbon on display. Mes amis, Jasmine Langston's vow drove this murder, he declared, his voice cutting through the silence. Someone here carries her torch, using the velvet dagger to settle an old score. He revealed a new clue, a torn page from Reginald's diary, found in the study, reading, J.L. knows my secret. The tablet was her warning. The guests reacted. Evelyn's gasp, Victor's clenched jaw, Voss's tightened fingers, Hale's scowl, Sophia's dropped pen, and Graves's subtle flinch. This secret, Poirot said, is the heart of the betrayal. Later, in the garden, Poirot found a hidden cache near the door, a vial of jasmine oil, half empty, wrapped in a velvet cloth. Confronting Sophia privately, he asked, Mademoiselle, did you use this oil to mimic J.L.? Her eyes widened. I found it in the study, but I didn't touch it. Her denial was fierce, but Poirot wondered if her research had led her to play a dangerous role. The cache suggested the killer had staged J.L.'s presence, a calculated act to confuse or condemn. As darkness fell, Poirot stood by the library's hidden panel, the diary page in hand. Jasmine Langston's shadow was no mere ghost. It was a mask worn by the murderer, their motives rooted in love, greed, or revenge. Each guest's lies wove a tighter web, but the truth was emerging. The velvet dagger's blade had struck, but its final target was yet to be revealed. The next chapter would peel back the last layers, exposing the heart of the betrayal in the manor's shadowed halls. Chapter 9. The web tightens. The night enveloped Ashworth Manor in a chilling embrace, the mist swirling like spectres as Hercule Poirot stood in the grand hall, the vial of jasmine oil and velvet cloth before him. The torn diary page, "JL knows my secret," the tablet was her warning. Burned in his mind, a final clue that Jasmine Langston's legacy was no mere ghost, but a calculated mask worn by the killer. The velvet dagger's strike was not random. It was the culmination of a grudge born in Cairo, woven through years of deceit and hidden truths. Poirot's little grey cells thrummed, sensing the murderer's identity was within reach, their motives tangled in the manor's shadows. He began his inquiries in the library, where Lady Evelyn sat, her eyes hollow as she clutched a locket, not unlike the one marked JL. "Mademoiselle," Poirot said, showing the vial and diary page, "your father's secret. Was it tied to Jasmine Langston's betrayal?" Evelyn's lips trembled. "He said she knew something that could destroy us," she whispered. "Something about Mother's death." Her fingers brushed the locket, and Poirot noted its similarity to the one found in the passage. Was Evelyn's grief hiding a deeper truth? Or was she a victim of her father's past? Victor Ashworth was in his studio, his latest painting. A woman with a dagger, her face now eerily clear, when Poirot approached. "Monsieur Victor, this diary speaks of a secret JL knew. Did you share it?" Poirot asked, holding the page. Victor's eyes flashed. "Father said JL held a truth that would ruin our name. I didn't care for his secrets, only his obsession with her." He gestured to the painting, its strokes mirroring the crime scene. Poirot's suspicion deepened. Was Victor's art a reflection of guilt, or a witness to another's crime? Dr. Helena Voss, in the conservatory, was examining a dried jasmine flower when Poirot showed her the vial. "Madame, this oil mimics Langston's scent," he said. "Did you use it to stage her presence?" Voss's fingers tightened on her lapis lazuli necklace. "I study artifacts, not perfumes," she replied, her voice cool. But Reginald's fear of JL was real. He said she knew his darkest sin. Her knowledge of Cairo's underbelly was too intimate. Poirot thought, as if she'd walked its shadows with Langston. Marcus Hale, in the billiard room, was rolling a cigar when Poirot presented the diary page. "Reginald's secrets got him killed," Hale muttered. JL was a liar, but he was no better. The jasmine scent on his coat lingered, and Poirot pressed. "Monsieur, did you seek to settle her score?" Hale's laugh was harsh. "I wanted his relics, not his blood." But his eyes darted to the velvet cloth, suggesting a connection he couldn't shake. Sophia Lang, in the study, was transcribing the diary when Poirot approached. "Mademoiselle, your name echoes JL's," he said, showing the vial. "Did you stage her return?" Sophia's face paled. "I found the oil in Reginald's desk, but I swear I didn't use it," she said, her voice unsteady. "His diary mentioned a debt to JL, tied to a death." Her eyes met Poirot's, and he sensed a truth she feared to voice. Was Sophia a descendant of Langston, or merely a journalist too close to the story? Mr. Graves, polishing a chandelier in the dining hall, was impassive as Poirot showed the evidence. "Monsieur Graves, this oil was found near the garden door," Poirot said, noting the crescent moon scar on his hand. "Did you place it there?" Graves' eyes were cold. "I handle the manor's upkeep, nothing more." But Poirot noticed a faint oil stain on his sleeve, a detail too precise to dismiss. The butler's stoicism was a wall, but it was crumbling. Poirot gathered the guests in the grand hall, the vial, cloth and diary page on display. "Mes amis, the killer used Jasmine Langston's shadow to strike," he declared, his voice steady. This secret, tied to a death, drove the murder. He revealed a new clue, a hidden letter in the locket, found in the passage, reading, "Reginald, your lie killed her. The dagger is justice." The guests reacted. Evelyn's sob, Victor's scowl, Voss's raised eyebrow, Hale's clenched fist, Sophia's gasp, and Graves' subtle flinch. "This lie," Poirot said, "is the key to the betrayal." Later, in the attic, Poirot found a sealed box with Reginald's initials, containing a death certificate for Clara Ashworth, his wife, listing accident as the cause. A note in Reginald's hand read, "JL knows it was no accident." The revelation stunned Poirot. Had Reginald's secret involved a murder covered up as an accident? Confronting Evelyn privately, he asked, "Mademoiselle, was your mother's death tied to JL?" Tears streamed down her face. "Father said JL blamed him, but he swore it was a mistake." Her anguish was real, but was it guilt? As midnight loomed, Poirot stood by the hidden panel, the letter in his pocket. The web of motives, love, revenge, greed, was tightening. Each guessed a thread in Jasmine Langston's legacy. The velvet dagger's truth was near, its blade pointing to a killer who had turned a past sin into present justice. The next chapter would unveil the final act, where the betrayer's mask would fall in the manor's shadowed heart. Chapter 10. The Unveiling of the Betrayer. The dawn broke over Ashworth Manor, its feeble light piercing the mist as Hercule Poirot stood in the grand hall, the weight of the case pressing on his shoulders. The velvet dagger, the jasmine-scented locket, the burned letters, the forged tablet, and the diary's haunting words, JL knows it was no accident, had woven a tapestry of betrayal that began in Cairo and ended in murder. Poirot's little grey cells had unravelled the threads. Jasmine Langston's shadow was no ghost, but a mask worn by the killer, driven by a secret tied to Clara Ashworth's death. Today, the truth would be laid bare, the betrayer unmasked before the manor's shadowed walls. Poirot gathered the guests in the grand hall, their faces etched with dread. Lady Evelyn clutched her locket. Victor gripped his sketchbook. Dr. Helena Voss fingered her lapis lazuli necklace. Marcus Hale lit a cigar. Sophia Lang clutched her notebook. And Mr. Graves stood rigid, his crescent moon scar glinting. "Mes amis," Poirot began, his voice commanding. "The velvet dagger struck Lord Reginald to avenge a lie about Clara Ashworth's death, known to Jasmine Langston. The killer is among you, hiding behind her shadow." He held up the death certificate for Clara Ashworth, marked accident. "This was no accident," Poirot declared. Reginald confessed in his diary. JL knew he caused Clara's death. In Cairo, he and Jasmine Langston were lovers and partners in forging antiquities. When Clara discovered their affair and threatened to expose them, Reginald staged her fall down the manor's stairs, claiming it was a drunken mishap. Jasmine, betrayed by his cowardice, swore revenge. Vanishing with their profits, the guests gasped, eyes darting. Evelyn's tears, Victor's scowl, Voss's stillness, Hale's clenched fist, Sophia's pale face, and Graves' subtle flinch. Poirot turned to the locket's letter. "Reginald, your lie killed her. The dagger is justice." This, he said, was written by the killer, mimicking Jasmine's hand. But Jasmine Langston is dead, confirmed by a Cairo record I found in Reginald's papers, noting her death 5 years ago. He revealed the velvet ribbon, stained with jasmine oil. This was placed to stage her presence to torment Reginald before his death. He paced, his cane tapping. The killer knew the manor's passages, the dagger's history, and Clara's truth. "Let us unmask them." He faced Evelyn first. "Mademoiselle, you knew of your mother's death and your father's affair. Your missing glove, your locket like JL's. Did you seek justice? Evelyn sobbed, shaking her head. I loved Mother, but I didn't kill him. I found the locket in her things, kept it to remember her. Poirot nodded. Her grief was genuine, her motives familial, not murderous. Victor was next. Monsieur Victor, your paintings mirrored the crime, your sketches showed the passage. Did you avenge your mother? Victor's eyes blazed. I hated Father's lies, but I painted to cope, not to kill. His sketchbook, open to the garden figure, was a witness, not a confession, Poirot concluded. Dr. Voss met his gaze coolly. Madame, your knowledge of Cairo and Langston's forgeries was precise. Did you use it to frame her? Voss's necklace gleamed. I studied their scandal, nothing more. I had no reason to kill. Her calm was scholarly. Not guilty, Poirot noted, though her necklace's lapis matched the dagger's hilt. A coincidence, perhaps. Hale's cigar trembled. Monsieur Hale, your rivalry and jasmine-engraved case suggest a grudge. Did you settle it with murder? Hale scoffed. I wanted his relics, not his life. My case was a gift from a dealer, not JL. His boots, faintly muddy, pointed to the garden, but Poirot sensed his motive was greed, not vengeance. Sophia Lang's notebook shook in her hands. Mademoiselle, your name, your research. Did you uncover JL's truth and act on it? Sophia's voice broke. I'm no relation. I found her story in Cairo, followed it here. I didn't kill him! Her notes were obsessive, but Poirot saw a journalist's zeal, not a killer's intent. Finally, Poirot turned to Mr. Graves, whose scar and missing key had haunted him. Monsieur Graves, you knew the manor's secrets, the passage, the key. Your cuff bore jasmine oil. Your scar matches Langston's mark. Graves' face remained impassive, but his eyes flickered. Poirot pressed, You are no mere butler. You are Jonathan Langston, Jasmine's brother, are you not? The room froze. Graves's composure cracked, his voice low. You're clever, monsieur. Poirot revealed the final clue. A hidden letter in the Cairo crate, addressed to Jonathan Langston, confessing Reginald's role in Clara's death and Jasmine's suicide after his betrayal. You served Reginald for years waiting, Poirot said. You used the passage, the dagger, the oil, to stage Jasmine's revenge. You wrote the notes, forged the tablet, left the ribbon. You killed him for your sister and Clara. Graves, Jonathan, nodded, his voice breaking. He destroyed them both. The dagger was her justice. Inspector Japp, stunned, arrested Jonathan, who went quietly, his mission complete. The guests dispersed, Evelyn weeping, Victor silent, Voss contemplative, Hale relieved, Sophia scribbling. Poirot stood alone, the velvet dagger's shadow fading. The little grey cells, he murmured, see through all masks. As the manor settled, the mystery closed, but the echoes of betrayal lingered. If you've enjoyed this tale, subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. Comment below with your thoughts, and join us for more mysteries where truth cuts deeper than any blade.